Hey guys! Welcome to our sixth episode of TKKFM, and today we'll be talking about student welfare and also mental health.
Yeah, so today joining us is Mr. Edmund Teo. Would you like to introduce yourself to the school?
You know my name. There are not many staff members with my hairstyle, only two. I'm the slightly taller one. I'm the school counselor. I'm one of two school counselors. But what you may not know is that I first joined the Chinese high school in 2002, right? I've actually been in Hwa Chong for quite a number of years, certainly almost 15 years. But I served in different capacities. I first joined as a teacher. I spent most of my time.
What were you teaching as?
I was teaching English and Lit.
Yeah. English and Lit is good subjects.
When I rejoined Hwa Chong last year, I served as a school counselor. But I still at heart see myself as
English teacher.
A teacher. As a literature teacher. Which explains why a number of my postings on the counselor's bulletin will have poems.
Yeah.
Yep.
So today we were supposed to talk about how to manage your stress. I think the past year has been quite stressful, right? I think with COVID, we have like a lot of worries about the future, especially with like how uncertain everything is. So, do you see like an increase in the amount of like cases we've had, or like you have to like, deal with as a counselor because of COVID?
Yes. Over the past 2 years, I joined last year.
Oh.
I rejoined Hwa Chong last year. And in my work with Mr. Vincent Tan, who is the other counselor, we've actually seen an increase in the number of students who are presenting with high levels of stress. Let me just clarify that we all experience stress. It's a matter of whether the stress becomes distress, or stress is something that is manageable, or stress and mitigates it. So we've seen more students who are showing signs and symptoms of distress. I think it's partly COVID, which doesn't help. I think it's also what's happening in the family because of COVID. And the fact that our students are very high achievement oriented.
They are.
So a lot of the stress really is a result of
wanting to get good grades.
The pressure they put on themselves. Actually, not just grades. I mean, the students that
like CCA?
Yes, actually it's not just CCA, it's like my classmates and my schoolmates are winning awards.
Oh, and I'm not winning awards.
I'm not winning awards, what's wrong with
so
me?
like the peer pressure.
Correct, So that's what's happening as well.
I think like speaking from like personal experience, I think if I had like my family's member, like if they were affected by COVID, I think I'd be really stressed out. Like I don't know how I'll be able to handle it, and like it'll be such a I don't know. I think it'll be terrifying, and it's very, very hard. And I just hope that everyone's okay, because I think it's not easy at all to do it. So what ways are there to help cope with stress?
Well, you are coping with stress. So what I would ask you?
I mean, there's always like those hey, go for the talks now. Go exercise, eat healthy, sleep early. But I mean, in the context of our school, I don't think a lot of us have the time to or have the privilege to sleep early, because they have classes end late, or they don't live near school. So all these factors come together, and then it just comes together, and it doesn't allow them to have the chance to have a good 8 hours of sleep. And I think some of my friends, if they even get 6 hours of sleep, it's really good for them. So they stay past 1 a.m. 2 a.m. So I think not everyone has the privilege and the capacity to sleep early. So how do you manage with that?
I think the first thing to address is the feeling that one is helpless or powerless. When you mentioned that not everyone has the privilege to sleep early or even to exercise, I think that's a misperception. Right? And when we see ourselves as helpless, then we become helpless. Very much. Right? If we see ourselves as not being in control, not being able to manage or control things and what's happening around us, then things happen to us and we just see ourselves, we treat ourselves as victims.
It's like a victim complex.
It is a victim complex, or what, at least in psychology, they call learned helplessness. The reality is there are a lot of things not within our control. Exams for one, exam schedules, or accidents that happen. COVID-19 we have no control over them. But there are also a number of things that are within our control. And it starts by us being mindful of the things that are in our control and taking control of it. I'll give an example. Sleep. If you ask me what is the most effective, proven intervention for preventing, managing stress, honestly, sleep. It would be that. But sleep is a habit. How we sleep is a habit. I remember my doctor telling me this, right? Many years ago. I was seeing him and I was having migraines, stomachache, things that a lot of students are familiar with. They are stress related. Right? He asked me, he said, how much time are you spending at work? At that point I said I was spending about 14 hours at work.
Oh my.
And then when you come home, is your mind at work? I said, yes. How much time do you sleep? I sleep about 5 hours a day. And he said straight away, that is one big factor. And what he told me is very simply this. He said your work, you can divide your life into 3 parts. Work, non-work. What's the third part? Say sleep. He told me that. He said very simply sleep. And of the 3, that part which is non-negotiable is sleep. You adjust everything else. You do not adjust sleep. He gave me that very simple principle. And all the research says that as well. So like it or not, adequate sleep should be a non-negotiable. It's when we keep seeing it as negotiable, we can't help it, then we get ourselves in trouble. So my take really is, honestly, the first thing we need is sleep.
So, if with that logic, would you suggest that someone rather not do their homework in the event of getting an 8, with the result of getting an 8 hours of sleep? Like, okay, let's say a scenario, I end CCA late at 7 o'clock, and I get home at, let's say 8 o'clock, finish dinner at 8:30. If I want to sleep, I want to get a good 8 hours of sleep, I need to sleep by what, 9:30, 10:30 if I wake up at like 6 or 5:30.
Yes.
So that leaves only half an hour or 1 hour to wash up, to wind down for the day, and then to do homework. So would you advise doing homework or just getting a non-negotiable 8 hours of sleep?
Oh, very clearly, sleep. Since when do you hand in homework late and teacher says, I'm sorry, you just have to stay up and complete your homework? No teacher will ever say that. What a teacher will say is, manage your time better. But nobody will ask you to sleep less or stay up and complete your homework. Right? Now, it's not easy. I didn't say it's easy. What it means that the rest of the day, how then do I more purposefully, intentionally maximize the rest of the day? Which means that when I focused on that, I had to reduce unproductive time. Every hour is planned intentionally and purposefully, including leisure hours. Leisure is important because it is rest and also for building bonds. Right? So it meant that I became a lot more aware of how I was spending my time. I stopped playing games. I used to play real-time strategy games. I stopped doing things that were pointless. So I maximized my time. Right? And that helped. So that's one thing, sleep. Second thing is really our social connections and social relationships. We need that. I think for students especially, a lot of what you all remember about school has to do with the relationships,
friends,
time spent with friends. And that is an important aspect. But spending time with friends doesn't necessarily mean going out doing non-work things.
It
simply means being with people, enjoying each other's company or misery, but doing it together. So social support becomes important. So those 2 things.
I read somewhere last few weeks ago. It was on I think The Guardian. They were talking about how, because of COVID, right? And then during lockdown in Britain, then they didn't allow anyone to leave their house. That's about like their social bubbles. So they're talking about how you need to maintain like a social bio kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like even like the small interactions you have with like people walking past the street, like hello, and like small talk, like that's really important as well.
Yeah.
To keep your own mental health. And I thought it was quite interesting because like I thought like it's just small talk, it doesn't really matter, right? But then like actually it does, and then, like it really plays a big part in our mental well-being.
It is because we are social animals.
Yeah.
It's part of our evolution, right? In order for us to exist and to thrive, first and to survive, as a species, we need to stay in a community.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it's not close friends, if it's just speaking with someone on the outside, having that connection, it's important. Which is why the worst kind of punishment, or even in prison, is solitary confinement. Right? That is the worst kind of punishment because we are social animals, very much. Yeah.
So do you think solitary confinement is cruel?
Yes, I think it's cruel. I also think corporal punishment is cruel. I don't think there's a place for corporal punishment in schools. There was a battle I fought with the previous principal for the longest time. I didn't win that battle.
There's still corporal punishment in Singapore, right? Like what?
Caning, oh yes, very much. Yeah. But that's a separate.
Yeah. So how would you say like when we feel stressed, when would you draw the line between like productive and unproductive? Because sometimes it like for me it gets a little blurry. Like sometimes like I get a bit stressed and then I'll get really productive, and then there's a certain point where like it's like murky, and then like it's like my brain like fogs out, and then like I don't know what's going on, and then suddenly I'm unproductive. So like when do we draw the line, and then how do we bring ourselves back to that good level of stress?
Okay. First thing, of course, is to recognize that we all experience stress.
Yeah.
It's not a sign of weakness to feel stress.
Yeah.
Next thing is an awareness that we need to build our self-awareness, right? Of what we are thinking, what we are feeling, and what we are doing. How the three are connected, right? When we are unproductive or we feel unproductive, that is a sign it's not working. Right? The moment we recognize, oh, okay, I'm being unproductive. What am I doing right now when I'm unproductive? Let me try and do something else instead. Or if I feel overwhelmed, I'm beginning to feel overwhelmed, I feel my temperature rising, I feel my thoughts becoming tunnel vision, I keep thinking of failing or giving up. That is the body's way or our mind's way of telling us something is wrong. So when we recognize those signs and symptoms for what they are, signs and symptoms, we can do something about it. What do? Consider getting more sleep. Consider telling someone, a good friend, a girlfriend, or someone whom you trust. Notice I don't really say teachers because honestly, the teachers are one of the last few people you approach.
And when you say like talk to a close teacher, like it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think a lot of people have that.
The reality is people talk to their friends
the most,
or their girlfriends more, which is fine. But talk to someone about it. Because talking to someone, you're not expecting the person to solve your problem.
I think just letting it out.
Correct. Right. And also, a lot of things that when we're stressed, there are a lot of things happening in our mind. It's fuzzy, it's all muddled up, it's jumbled. Yeah. When we speak,
you have to like rationalize your thoughts.
Correct. We put it into words, into a form. It becomes a lot more recognizable, and perhaps creating that distance where we can begin to get some sense of, hey, there's something I can do about it.
Yeah.
And of course, there's other perspective. Right? The person will say, hey, okay, it's okay, I'm here, I'm with you. So that kind of company helps as well. So first is being aware that we are experiencing signs and symptoms of stress, and then doing something about it. Sleep, one. Second, really telling someone about it. If it's really, really bad, you're afraid that telling people will change or color people's opinion of you. Then very simply, tell a school counselor. Because the school counselor is not a friend. And the school counselor is bound to maintain confidentiality. Cannot tell anyone else. So that's an option.
So what do you think of journaling as a sort of coping mechanism? Because I know some people who like write down their feelings and then like they have like different journal prompts to like help them sort through their own feelings. So do you think that's as effective as talking to someone, or is it like?
It depends. There's journaling just for yourself.
Yeah.
It might be helpful because when you write it out, you're also getting a clear idea of what's happening. There's also journaling where you have just a close group of readers who can read and then respond to what you've written and that creates connection. And whichever works,
Yeah.
right? Whichever works. But certainly there's a need to get it out of what's happening up here.
But what do you think about like taking breaks and like mental health breaks? Like, I always see that online. Like people like, oh, taking myself out for a mental health break. So like, how do you
digital
discern?
detox.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people think that playing games, online games, or watching YouTube video is taking a mental break. Actually, it is. it isn't not at all.
Yeah.
Right? Taking a mental break means giving the particular sense, in this sense, sense of the eye, the vision, a break, and engaging other senses. Right? We have 5 senses.
Yeah.
So if you want to take a break from studying and from looking at devices, honestly, you need to not look at any of the devices, but engage other senses, your smell, your touch, your taste. Right? And the best way to do that is get up and go out for a walk.
Wait, so is it true that like actually like exercising, like even though it's like very cliche, like everyone says like they should exercise to de-stress, but is it like proven?
Yes! The 2 most effective ways for managing stress: sleep and exercise. Honestly, okay, let's not use the word exercise. Physical activity. It is physical activity, something moderately rigorous. Right? It doesn't have to be a run or a swim. It could be just a brisk walk.
You mean like just getting out of your chair and like
Playing, basketball is quite rigorous.
Yeah.
And it's a contact sport. It can be basketball, it can be tennis, it can be things like that. Or it can be just a walk
to
a
the
brisk
park.
walk. Yeah, but when you're walking, you're not thinking about work. You're actually engaging your other senses. Right? So not just the visual sense, but the smell, the sounds.
Yeah.
Even eating, but of course be careful what you're always eating. You cannot always be eating.
Stress eating.
Stress eating is a different thing. But also appreciating taste. So one thing I do when I teach, when I run a stress management workshop or mindfulness workshop, is I take a Mandarin and I get the person to go through whole exercise. You first see, you smell, you feel, then slowly peel, and you must peel it one piece. Right? And then you feel the texture.
Yeah.
And then you don't just throw in your mouth and eat. Literally, you just take a bite. Feel the flavors travel through your mouth. So this is called biting mindfully. And that exercise can be 3 minutes or can be 15 minutes, but it engages all the other senses. And it actually gives a break.
Yeah, I was on the internet the other day, and then I saw this person on Twitter. Like, she was talking about how she had a mental breakdown, and then she was talking about how like naming 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Like, it like helps to ground you.
Yeah.
So like, do you have any other like grounding mechanism? Do you think like deep breathing, is that like, or any other things?
Breathing, yes. It's very intentional, purposeful, deliberate.
Yeah.
That's one. Second thing would be what I do personally is I would listen to a familiar piece of music.
Yeah.
And I will pay attention not to the entire music, but pay attention to a particular element.
Yeah.
So for example, if I'm listening to classical music.
Oh my god, me too.
So for example, I use a very popular piece. I use Bolero.
Oh my god, Ravel. I love Ravel.
Correct. And what I listen for is a long piece where you have one instrument,
and
the kettle drum, plays the same notes. So I just listen to the kettle drum. Correct. So I just listen to that through the entire piece.
They play it like 100 and something times. It's crazy.
So that's one way. You see, we all find our own ways,
Yeah.
but it really is focus attention away from that which is triggering that stress. And helps. Bolero is a nice long, I think 8 to 10 minute piece.
No, isn't it more than that? 16.
Or 16, sorry, 15, 16.
Yeah.
That helps as well. Can you imagine listening to a favorite soundtrack? For example, let's say I'm doing Star Wars. You listen to a Star Wars soundtrack and you're listening for just one particular instrument throughout the entire piece. You wake up going like, you're actually a lot more focused and energized.
Yeah. Do you think the type of music that you listen to also affects your mood and how you deal with stress?
I think it does, but a lot depends on how you listen, not what you listen to. So a lot of people pay attention to what they listen to in terms of lyrics.
Yeah.
And that might get you even more upset. Because
Yeah, I
you're
think sometimes you
listening
hear
to-
certain things and it like evokes certain thoughts.
Correct. So when I am going to relax or take a break, I tend to listen to music without words.
Yeah.
Certainly music with words I don't understand.
K-pop.
The K-pop.
If let's say I'm in an emo mood,
Uh-huh.
let's say I'm really sad and I just want to feel sad, indulge in sadness,
Yeah.
I listen to sad music and listen for the lyrics. But when I'm taking a mental break, I don't.
Yeah.
I tend to listen to music without words. Classical music is fantastic.
Yeah, I agree.
I can listen to Chinese music because I don't
No,
understand.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming here down today. I think it's about 20 minutes now, so I think we should cut it. So thank you so much for all the advice you've given us and to everyone there watching.
I must say this. Remember the most important takeaway, sleep. Non-negotiable. And second, your friendships are important. Your relationships with your friends and peers are important.
Yeah.
Right? So please do that. And when you need help, please ask for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
You can find our podcast at Hwa Agency. Also on Spotify, research TKKFM, you'll be there.
Yeah,
Okay.
follow us on Spotify.
Woo!